talk about Cell, okay? So Cell is pretty much about a Stephen King novel. The thing about these Stephen King novels is that sometimes they kind of be very well adapted, sometimes they kind of like shit. Now granted, if Cell the book is shit, then congratulations, this is a very faithful adaptation. The thing about this movie is just that it really does only have kind of like the interesting concept going for it. Now an interesting concept is kind of like, talking about how humans kind of like really use their cell phones almost all the time, and therefore they kind of almost get so inversed into like their cell phones, they don't essentially see anything past life, right? They only are very focused inside their phones, and without it, or with it particularly, they almost are like zombies, and they kind of use it almost like a metaphor, and that's kind of what they actually become. So I think that's actually kind of a good thing that they actually use. The problem is that's kind of like the best thing, and really that kind of makes this shit going. Now granted, don't let the fucking concept fool you. This shit is a cliche zombie fucking movie, and I mean to the point where you can literally tell every part bit by bit, and you can break it down, and I can easily see that this is a clear zombie movie. Now granted, John Cusack and Sam Jackson are in this movie, and they're reunited after 1408, and granted, I actually think that's a much more better movie than this, but then again, I'm not going to blame. Now I can easily say John Cusack is phoning it in, but then that would be a very cheap pun. The thing about John Cusack though is that he really is kind of just like walking through the treadmill pretty much. The thing is, there's an opening scene, right, where all the like outbreak or whatever you want to call it kind of happens, and he's like seeing everybody like getting ripped apart, foaming of the mouth. He's just like, huh? That doesn't seem normal. And he's literally getting no direction at all. Now Sam Jackson pretty much has energy in this movie, and for Sam Jackson to have energy, that's a good thing, because he brings energy to this film that pretty much has no fucking sense at all. Now granted, the film kind of just kind of like throws you into there, and there's not really much development with any of these characters, and shit just kind of happens, right? They never really explain anything at all, and when they do kind of explain stuff, it's so much fucking exposition, they might as well just be talking to you directly, either through the screen or on a cell phone. The thing about this film is just that it is kind of like unintentionally comedy, at least for the first like few, maybe 40 minutes, and then it just starts to kind of drag, then it gets slow, then it gets a little bit boring, and then you just don't care, because you know all this already. Quite frankly, brace yourself, because this is about as good as The Fifth Wave. Not as bad, personally, but it's on the same level, pretty much. And of course, this is in Boston, you have to have somebody with a Boston accent, pretty much, and yeah, there's also some stupid shit in here, because there's a zombie getting head, pretty much. Not joking. And that's just kind of like the case. But towards the end, though, as I say, you don't really care about any of these characters. There's no development. There's nothing really going on. There's a son plot that you don't care for, but is constantly mentioned over and over again, because that's the basic thing. Quite frankly, Clay, which is John Cusack's character name, which I didn't realize until the very end, you don't really give a fuck about, because he's practically like a $2 version of Rick from The Walking Dead. But then it does kind of end, and I guess it's kind of like an ambitious ending. It's not as ambitious as probably the book, because I did look up the ending. But then again, that's not for me to decide. I guess that's for people to actually read the book. But that's my thoughts. It's a very decent film that kind of just falls apart towards the end. The concept is interesting, and that's about it. Comment, subscribe, and like. I'm Chris Smith, and I'm signing out.